Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on Monday declared Caleb Muftwang of the People's Democratic Party as the winner of the Plateau State Governorship election. Barrister Mutfwang defeated his closest competition, Nentawe Yiltwada of the APC, to win the polls. The victory of Mutfwang sees power return to the People's Democratic Party after an 8-year APC leadership in the state. With cracks in the state's unity as tribal and religious issues persist, the governor-elect faces a challenge that will test his capacity as he hopes to deliver on his campaign promises. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Governor-elect, and glad to have you on PHQ, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Muftwang, Governor-elect of Plateau State.
Thank you, Gbenga. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
Congratulations on your recent...
Pronounce the name better.
We're happy to have you, sir. Now, congratulations on your recent election victory, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Muftwang. What do you think made your campaign stand out and resonate with the people of this state? Can you share some specific policies or initiatives that you proposed during your campaign that particularly resonated with the voters? Because it's not easy to defeat a party that has an incumbent in the state.
Thank you, Gbenga. I think for the last 7 getting to 8 years, the people of Plateau State feel let down. They feel deceived. They feel taken for granted. And we came in with sincerity. We came in with determination to make a difference. We came in with a promise of hope to change the narrative. And so our candidature presented the people of Plateau State with a refreshing option compared to what they have been through in the last 7 getting to 8 years.
Now, Mr. Governor-elect, let's step out of Plateau State for a little bit. Less than 48 hours ago, presidential candidates of the PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, and others filed petitions to nullify Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's victory at the presidential elections. As a person with an extensive legal career, what is the significance of the recent petitions filed by Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar Action Alliance and Allied People's Movement challenging the outcome of the presidential election in Nigeria?
Well, thank you. This, for me, is a hallmark of democracy, that you can disagree on issues and there will be civilized approaches to resolving those disputes. And the results, I expect that in most of the elections, not just the presidential, that a lot of the victories will be challenged, the declarations by INEC will be challenged, so that the authenticity of those results can be verified. And for me, that is strengthening democracy because you have the right to express your grievance in a very civilized manner, and it can be objectively looked into, and a verdict is delivered. At the end of the day, we are hopeful that the judiciary will come to strengthen democracy by ensuring that the votes that really were cast are the votes that were used to determine the winners of those elections. So I think overall, it is a great advantage to our democracy. And as we continue with those democratic efforts, I believe that our democratic experience will be the better for it in the years to come.
Thank you, Barrister Mutfwang. Now, let's talk about agriculture. Agriculture is a major sector in Plateau State. You indicated during your campaign that you plan to prioritize agriculture in your administration. I saw a few videos during the week, and I was shocked to see that strawberry actually grows in VOM and parts of Plateau State. What specific policies do you plan to implement to support farmers and boost agricultural productivity in the state?
Yeah, thank you again, Benga. By May 29, like I've often said, the agricultural season, the farming season would have taken off very much here around the plateau. And what we can do for the rest of that season would basically be to help our farmers with better inputs in terms of seedlings, in terms of fertilizer, in terms of herbicides, and what have you, so that at least the quality of production for this season will be maintained. And we can then also hope that we can begin to develop capacity to harvest rainwater for irrigation. We need to, in the long run, build the infrastructure to be able to harvest rainwater adequately, because key to our agricultural vision is the expansion of the agricultural season. Beyond the expansion of the agricultural season, the farming season, is that we must also be able to expand the value chain of agriculture. Basically, what we do now is to do the primary activity, which is farming, and then the other stages in the value chain are yet to be developed. And so you find that even in terms of marketing, we are not yet doing very well. And the beauty of it, Benga, is that Plateau is one of the most blessed lands in Nigeria where virtually anything can grow. I was even surprised recently to know that kola nuts do well on the plateau.
Wow.
The sunflower does well on the plateau. So part of our policy again is to expand the scope of things we can farm, and not to talk of going into livestock farming. But these are all aspects we'll be looking at critically, and we'll be bringing up policies that would help our farmers to develop better capacity in every field of agricultural endeavor. And hopefully we can be able to boost our GDP in the long run from agriculture.
Like you said, Your Excellency, Plateau State is blessed naturally with arable land, and the weather is fantastic. Like every thing could grow. So what's the excuse in developing the agricultural sector? And we hope it does come to fruition like you've promised, Your Excellency. Now, Plateau State, it's been plagued by insecurity in recent years. We've had communal clashes, banditry, and other forms of violence. You're going to be the executive governor of the state, and I do understand that the police commissioner of the state gets its orders from the Inspector General of Police, and there's little or more that you could do as a state governor. You don't also control the armed forces. Knowing this, what specific measures do you plan to implement to tackle this issue and restore peace and stability to the state? How do you plan to work with federal and neighboring governments to address this issue?
Yes, thank you. As to the interface with the federal security agencies, I think that has to do a lot with my skills in man management, which I hope to deploy more effectively. We must bring in empathy towards those security agencies that are working for our people on the plateau. They are putting their lives on the line, and I'm sure when properly and fully motivated, with great empathy, they will be able to perform better. We do realize the legal challenge, the constitutional challenge in terms of managing the security architecture. But I think with good understanding, with good relationship, you'll be able to get them to perform optimally. But that is looking at it from the top. Again, security is not so much the presence of those armed forces. It is rather the ability to live in peace with your neighbors, and you can go to sleep with your two eyes closed. So that means we must take back security to the grassroots, to the community level, and we'll then be able to build on both inter and intra-community relationships that will adequately address all the fears, all the barriers, artificial barriers people have erected, and be able to inculcate in our people again the spirit of togetherness, brotherliness, your brother's keeper. That would help us to be able to look out for one another, not just as individuals, but as communities. Of course, in every community today, you find the vigilante group, you find the hunters group. These are groups we need to be able to train and make them perform better. We need to motivate them adequately so that it will enhance their performance. And gradually, as we scale up, we're going to now leverage on one of the security outfits we have on the plateau, as authorized by the federal government, is the Operation Rainbow, which I must say sadly, at the moment is ineffective. And we will try to revitalize the Operation Rainbow and make sure that it delivers on its mandate. And gradually, as we do that, we would have the right kind of interface with these federal agencies, and I'm sure that we will get better results.
Now, Your Excellency, Mappy, you spoke to the fact of your management skills and also empathy, and that leads me to my next question. Plateau State is known for its rich cultural heritage and diverse ethnic groups, which you acknowledged when answering my last question. How do you plan to promote and preserve this cultural heritage while also fostering unity and inclusivity among different groups? Could you share some specific initiatives that you might plan to implement in this regard?
Thank you. Our diversity is an advantage, not a disadvantage, in my opinion. It adds to the richness of our cultural diversity. And over the years, you find that people have built up, erected artificial walls and barriers. We've created fear, suspicion amongst ourselves. And one thing we need to do is to break down those barriers. And the way we can do it is to ensure that we give everybody a sense of belonging. Our policies are underpinned by a sense of justice, fairness, and equity. We must run an all-inclusive administration that assures everybody that he's a stakeholder in the state. And I think when we do that, we're going to let down our guards, come together, and be able to look at the advantages in our diversity rather than trying to go separately, as has been the tendency over the recent years. Of course, we would need to leverage on that and come into specific projects that will attract tourism to our state. And part of the tourism attraction, of course, is the cultural expression of our rich diversity. And I'm sure when we begin to focus on bringing a holistic attraction to the state, people are going to look at the bigger picture rather than focusing on their smaller, narrow interests. So we're going to be deliberate. We're going to be proactive in promoting the diversity and educating our people to see that it is an advantage and not a burden.
Your Excellency, still on the subject of inclusivity and making Plateau State a home away from home for everyone, regardless of its ethnic group. Plateau State, unfortunately, has a large number of internally displaced persons, IDPs, as we speak, who have been forced to flee their homes due to conflicts and violence. What plans does your administration have to support and rehabilitate these IDPs? And how do you plan to address the root causes of the conflict that led to the displacement in the first place?
Yes, thank you. This is a sad reminder of the experience of the last couple of years of the Plateau, where we have, at the last count, about 64 communities that had been displaced from their ancestral homes. And some of those homes have unfortunately been renamed after the names of those who took over those places. As I'm talking to you, a lot of people in the IDP camps are living in trauma. And so rehabilitation is a job we must do. It's not going to be a walk in the park, I know. But first of all, what we are bringing on board is a determination to ensure that that historical injustice is corrected and that people who, out of criminality, came and occupied other people's lands, that they are told in clear terms that there is no place for criminality in our state, and therefore we'll be doing all we can. I know it's going to be a carrot and stick approach because, again, where you have people who have forcefully occupied the land, they're not just going to wake up and go the next day. It's going to require a lot of diplomacy. It's going to require a lot of collaboration with the federal agencies. It's going to require a lot of education on the part of the occupiers to see the need to peacefully vacate those lands. One of the things we'll be doing, I can assure you, is that we'll be strong on the rule of law, and we'll ensure that criminality is not hidden, is not disguised, as a clash. We're going to expose the narrative for what it really is, to ensure that criminals are well punished, and therefore we would begin by ensuring that we negotiate our way to securing those lands so that our people can begin to gradually go back. And it's not just about going back, Gbenga. We have to find a way to rehabilitate them, both economically, psychologically, so that they can be, a life can be worth living again for them. This is going to be something we'll do in the medium term and in the long term. And I'm pretty sure by God's grace, we will achieve some great degree of success.
Your Excellency, you would agree with me that, like they say, education is the bedrock of all societies, especially developed societies. That's why you made education a key priority for your administration in your campaigns. What measures do you plan to take to improve the quality of education in the Plateau and ensure that all children have access to quality education? How do you plan to work with the federal government and other stakeholders to improve education in the state?
Yes, Gbenga, what I intend to do as soon as I come on board is to declare a crisis in the education sector. People must see that we have reached a crisis point, starting from basic education to secondary education and to tertiary education. We cannot deceive ourselves any longer that it is Uhuru. We certainly know that standards have collapsed, and therefore we must begin to attack it from different fronts. One of it is the training and retraining of teachers, giving them a better working environment, because without the teachers, there will be no students, and vice versa. And we will also be able to look at how to ameliorate the challenges of the current economic downturn, where even many parents are still not willing to send their children to school. So school enrollment has dropped. We need to bring that back to the fore. And a lot of dilapidated structures all around the state. Yet, of course, we must face the reality that we have the paucity of funds. But again, we must look for how to be able to improve our internally generated revenue so that these aspects of our lives, education, healthcare, can be adequately funded. But we must start from the basics. We must start from the basics, try to improve the quality of primary education, basic education, so that the quality of people that are moving up higher to the secondary level or in the intermediate level, as they may call it, they are able to be better students, and therefore they can be able to gain admissions even on merit beyond our state. And so we would need to invest in staff training. We invest in monitoring and evaluation. We invest in infrastructure. And of course, we must also deal with the aspects of poverty that hinders people from even contributing to the kind of education that their children get.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, it will be a travesty if we have this discussion without talking about youths, because I belong to that demography. Now, youth unemployment is a major issue in Nigeria, and sadly, Plateau State is no exception to this. What specific initiatives do you plan to implement to create jobs and reduce unemployment amongst young people in the state? How do you plan to encourage entrepreneurship and promote innovation in Plateau State?
Thank you. The youth are the bedrock, the cornerstone of every society. And I will tell you that the youth played a great, heroic role in my emergence as governor, and therefore I'm indebted to them. They slept at the collation centers, protected the votes, and therefore the only way I can repay them is to be able to come up with policies that improve their quality of life. And therefore, we're looking at various options in terms of the very educated ones, making sure we give them quality education. We need to subsidize their education by providing scholarships. We therefore need to look at also how we can go there to be able to give them adequate skills, better skills that make them employable, more than just holding a certificate. I believe that there are still some jobs within critical sectors of the economy, oil and gas, extractive industry, but there are skills that employers of labor are looking for, which some of our youths do not yet possess. We need to help them to acquire those skills. Beyond that, we need to expand the capacities in ICT, expand the capacities in the creative industry, in entertainment, in sports, and so on and so forth, so that these youths can have expressions. And ultimately, in reflecting our economy, in rebuilding our economy, we intend to bring in the private sector as a key driver of the economy, of course, in partnership with the public sector. And through that mechanism, through that arrangement, we believe that some of our moribund industries can come back to life. We believe that even new areas of business endeavor can open up, and we'll be sourcing for credit from all the financial institutions to make available to our youth to be able to finance their creativity and entrepreneurial spirits. And so we are looking at this in a very holistic manner. And I can assure you that the youth will be a key priority for us as we begin to reel out our policies and begin to perform as a government.
Finally, Your Excellency, as we wrap up this interview, what message do you have for the people of Plateau State, and what can they expect from your administration in the coming years? How do you plan to engage with the people of the state and ensure that their voices are heard in the decision-making process?
Let me assure my dear people of Plateau State that this government offers a new dawn, offers a refreshing change from the past. This government is determined to change our situation, our narratives. This government is truly concerned about the welfare and well-being of our people. But of course, things are not going to happen overnight. It's going to require time to address some of the issues, some of the challenges that confront us. So I'll be pleading with the people of Plateau for patience, for understanding, as we begin to, as we roll out our plans to be able to ameliorate the difficulties that our people are facing currently. But one thing I can assure them is that we'll lead from the front. We will provide the kind of leadership that mobilizes all the necessary and adequate resources to be able to change our situation and bring about development and progress. So, Plateau people, keep hope alive, because by the grace of God, we believe that change is underway.
Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you in Politics Headquarters. We do appreciate your time and your insights. It's been a very insightful interview, I must say. All the best with your administration where you resume on May the 29th. You have my best wishes.